Our story begins at school where the sun was setting. A girl named Dayun was surprised when a fat boy confessed his feelings to her. He said that he liked her since the first time he saw and ever since they've been friends. The girl was shy to respond to him, and the boy looked at her and looked down, and he apologized to her and said it must be really awkward for someone she don't like to confess. Then the girl was shy response to him that she does not mean don't like him. It's absolutely not like that. She said to him that he was kind and really good-looking, talented, and fun. But she wanted to focus on her studies first. Outside of the school where a man was waiting for him. He asked what happened, and he saw Saiwa's sad aura walking towards to him and said that there's probably no need to ask. They walked together with arms placed over Saiwa's shoulder and told him that it wasn't what he was prepared for. Then Saiwa said that the girl wants to focus on her studies. The man responded to him that the girl should at least make a better excuse instead. Saiwu asked to himself why he looked like this, then suddenly the ball goes to him, and he stopped with one hand. The man beside him was shocked on what he saw. The boy said sorry to him and asked if he was all right. The man said indeed, it is the greatest mystery in your life. It's not that he dislikes exercising, and it's not even that he can't. With every meal, he meticulously calculates the calories. If people who are on diet could follow even half of what he do, then no one in the world would get fat. The man asked him if he ever been to a hospital or something. Then he said that he have and went many times. The man was shocked of what he said, and Saiwa said that if he's not losing weight no matter what he do, that's 99.9% because of genes. He was at home and he started thinking about genes. He looked at the pictures and said that it would have been rather nice if that was true. Even though it feels unfair, he could have given up already. Whether in the past or now, his mother who has always complimented him about his beauty as a matter of course. He have never seen his father in person. However, he have heard many stories that his father was a very famous wrestler. Although his period of activity was short, his record and strength were truly overwhelming. According to his mom, he's no overweight. He just have a physique where muscles would develop just by breathing. He was irritating seriously and started to look for food to eat. What's the meaning of a diet that doesn't even work for him, and how many years he have been dieting without any results? Instead of continuing to be stressed for nothing, he'd rather eat as much he want. Saiwa suddenly stopped and decided to eat his meal where his mom prepared for him. At sunset, he starts jogging, and he is fast enough to complete 4 kilometers, that the average record, while thanking the girl who rejected him. He said himself that he will never give up. He stopped and rest at 15.4 kilometers, updating the personal record, and ran too far without even realizing it. He saw a bridge and wondering if there was a place like this before, and it's his first time seeing it. Well, if he turn on the map app, it should show where he's at. Suddenly a man with a shadow told Saiwu he was fast growing like a little pig. It seems like he can't deceive his bloodline. The old man jumps toward him and Saiwu stepped back and scared. He was scared and asked the old man if he's okay. The old man said there's no need to be scared like that. He didn't come to devour him. The old man introduced himself. He is Grandpa Mangtai, taking care of the yokai in this peninsula, playing role of divine judge. He stares Saiwu and said that from the looks of it, it seems he know nothing at all. Well, it's okay. There's no need to say much and come with him. Grandpa Mangtai threw the magic blanket to Saiwu and he wrapped up. Grandpa Mangtai threw the magical cloth at Saiwu and it wrapped his whole body. He was very afraid of what was happening and he suddenly found himself in a strange world. Saiwa's head hurt and he asked where he was, and he suddenly opened his eyes and was surprised by what he saw. Welcome to the world of yokai. It was unbelievable that he had landed in a strange world. The old man said that he looked around him from left and right that he had to see with his 2 eyes. Saiwu was surprised to see the yokai who told him that they had gathered here and that this is the home and world of the yokai. Once, humans feared them, regarded them as gods, and worshipped them. Now they are merely considered superstitions and exist only as imaginary beings. Once every 666 years, the great festival is held to select the king of yokai. All yokai clans existing in the entire world, including the Korean peninsula. must select and send out young yokai with outstanding talents as candidates. 666 years ago, a yokai stood tall as their king, and now, 666 years have passed. Saiwa interrupts Mangtai for a moment and said he's alright, and he got it, but he asked why he was doing here. Mangtai told Saiwa that every yokai clan must send at least one candidate, including the yokai world and the human world. Saiwa was the only one who inherited the goblin's bloodline, and he was totally stunned and scared of what he heard. At best, it's only about 4th or 5th generation, just a very slight mixture. He interrupts Mangtai while talking with sweaty face, and there seems to be a misunderstanding. Suddenly he noticed the yokai jumps above him while he was scared and shaking, then the yokai smashed the ground in front of him. Mangtai said that whether it's complete nonsense or not, at least he do a test. He opened his eyes and saw a yokai in front of him. Mangtai told the yokai if he win then he can eat him. The big mouth yokai responds that after 666 years, he can't miss the chance to eat a human meat. Saiwa was scared and wondering what's happening. Then the big mouth yokai ran to him and kicked him, then Saiwa threw away and fell to the ground. Mangtai tells to Saiwa that even if he inherited the blood of a goblin, they can't give the right to the festival to an ordinary human being. So, he can prove it if Saiwa want to live. He took too much damage, and there is a blood in his mouth. Then the big mouth yokai grabs him and throw him to the grounds. He was unconscious and full of blood in his mouth. The big mouth said that he was surprisingly thought, and he thought it would be easy to eat like a rice cake, that not too bad, even pounding tough meat can be enjoyable. He raised his hand and ready to kill him, then suddenly and strong light covered to him and Mangtai thought it was over. Saiwa blocked the attacks, since ancient times the abilities possessed by goblins were truly limitless. Mangtai was shocked and surprised. Nevertheless, their most representative ability and weapon were the game they enjoyed. As long as it's a goblin, they can learn it without being taught, talents ingrained in the body by instinct. Saiwa was awakened his true power, and he managed to block it. The big mouth was surprised. At full strength, Saiwa started to lift him and throw it to the ground and called the Serum Mountain Flip attack. He stand beside the dead yokai body and Choi Saiwu, a 17-years-old boy with a human at half-goblin race awakening complete. After a while, Saiwa wonders what happened next and thinks about his bad experience in his dream where he fought a yokai and his body changed. The man said that after listening to him, it sounds like it was quite fun though, and Saiwa said that there was nothing fun about it. He was beaten up the whole time and only managed to throw him to his back once. The man was wondered, it's pretty strange that he were getting beaten up in his dream. Don't people usually do things they are familiar with in their dreams? He told that he never learned wrestling, he consistently did boxing to lose weight. Saiwa said that it really strange to him. That dream felt really vivid, as if he knew exactly what he was doing from the start. He feel like if he tried right now, he'll be able to do it. The man asked if he was getting too immersed in this, and he responds that's what he telling to him. Saiwa was looking his hand and wonder if it's because he have been under a lot of stress lately. He was obsessed with losing weight, and even if it was a dream, it doesn't make sense for his body to suddenly become muscular. Then suddenly he was surprised and managed to go back to yokai world while looking his hand. Mangtai and a pretty girl behind asked Saiwa if he come back to his senses. He assumed that Saiwa wake up after a while since he fell asleep while standing. Saiwa looks around. It's not a dream. He saw Big Mouth laying to the ground and was scared shocked, then he fell to the ground. He was scared and asked himself if it's not a dream, then that monster is real and big. With that kind of monster he was able to beat him. He was worried about his body and home. Mangtai asked the girl behind him what she will do now then. The girl responds, to be honest, she is a little disappointed. It's her first time seeing a half-human, but now that she has seen him in person, he is quite stupid and pathetic. She asked ID that thing, does he really have a goblin blood? Mangtai told to her that she saw the fight earlier as well. The girl said that an opponent is an opponent. But that isn't even comparable to a minor monster. He couldn't use any impressive magic, all he did was show off his strength. To think that he was struggling against something like that and feeling proud of his victory. Saiwu asked them if the evaluation is over and then let him go back home now. Mangtai, with his incredible speed, able to teleport in front of Saiwu and told to him that's right. He proved himself admirably, and Mangtai made his judgment while he were still half asleep. So let's do this one more time. While Saiwu was standing, the shadows of a monsters around him wasn't expecting something like this. He was able to bring that bastard Kwando down. Was he hiding high strength? That doesn't seem to be the case. Look like he still has goblin's blood in him. It's been a while since they've seen a goblin serum. Mangtai point his wand to Saiwu and said that he's the judge of the peninsula's monsters. Grandpa Bogeyman, give a promising judgment with the hundreds of monsters gathered here as witnesses. To the one standing here right now, he declared Choi Saiwu was not a human but a monster. If there are no objections, everyone should retreat and spread the news about what happened here throughout Busan. The monsters start to move and said that to unexpectedly come across a goblin, one must go through all sorts of things. This festival is going to be quite interesting this time. Mangtai told to him that as a monster, his name will be added to the register of the names. No one will be able to capture or harm him unless they have a valid reason to do so. Saiwu was glad to hear, and that's good for him, but he must go back home while thinking if there's a valid reason to harm him. He was frustrating. The girl told to Saiwu, unless he can gain recognition for his ability to completely conceal his identity among humans. A monster who hasn't reached 500 years of age can't venture into the human realm. He was worried and said that he is not someone who causes trouble. He have never hit anyone and lived peacefully. Mangtai was mad and told to Saiwu that if he don't understand, then he have no choice but to kill him. Saiwu steps back and surprised when he saw the gap that he created. That's right, do he get the gist of it now? Whether he consider himself to be a human or not, his body was already that of a monster. Saiwu felt like his body was tremble for a moment. Mangtai said that among the monster species, the goblin species' power is undoubtedly considered to be the best. Even if he was in a state that is akin to the newly awakened baby, his strength will easily exceed that of an ordinary human dozens of times over. An ordinary human boy would be ruined if he held them the wrong way. Now, Saiwu understand that, but to wait until he's 500 years old, that's ridiculous. And if he only need to wait for half a year, didn't he tell him that the king of the monsters was chosen once every 666 years? The 500-year restriction was a law enacted by the current crown king. It was 666 years ago, and Child was running in the forest chased by the monster. Before that, all the monsters were free to enter and exit the human realm. The most a human could was to run away and be scared of them. On the nights they appear or rely on strong human-friendly species that lived among them. Fear and worship. That was humanity's attitude towards until 666 years ago. After the end of the festival 666 years ago, the newly crowned king, for some reason, didn't seem to like that fact on the day he ascended to the throne. The king wrote down a new law using the blood of the monsters that he had killed. Because of that restriction, they were prohibited from harming humans and even revealing themselves or approaching them. Because of this, humans are no longer scared of them. Rather, they're oblivious to their existence. The humans simply think of them as whimsical and fictional creatures from stories. But even that won't last for long now. In half a year, the current king's 666-year reign will come to an end, and he will abdicate. The law that he established will be rewritten as well. On that day, once the sun sets in the human realm, it will be the moment that all monsters have been longing for to come for the past 666 years. The monster's night. All creatures of the monster realm will rush into the human realm and awaken the forgotten fears and reverence within humanity. Saiwu was shocked after he heard the history and stories behind. Mangtai and Saiwu, if these 6 months, either wait for it to pass or learn how to harness his power to leave quickly and decide to do is entirely up to him. He asked how can he learn and harness his power and if he managed to harness it. And ask how powerful someone has to be called strong among the monsters. Mangtai was surprised to him because for a brief moment there, he seemed to have made a determined expression. Saiwu was wondering what will happen to the world once the monsters reappear. To keep them away from touching humanity. For a 17-year-old boy, it's impossible to make precise predictions. However, one thing is for certain, that the world will become much more dangerous for all humanity at the very least. The boy must protect those who are dear to him. Mangtai told to him that might not necessarily be the case. The goblin blood coursing through him was extremely powerful. While it may not be comparable to a pure-blood goblin, if he managed to learn how to properly utilize even half of his power, there'll be no monster who'd dare harm your precious loved ones. Although the likelihood of that might be low, he never know what might happen. If he can manage to win at the festival and become the king of the monsters, he can reenact that law once again. The girl said, "Don't speak of something impossible. Even though he's the equivalent of a 50-50 monster, someone like him has no chance of surviving in the festival." Mangtai said, "How come to think of it? He haven't introduced her yet." He introduced her to him. Her name is Silwa. Just like him, a child who is going to participate in the festival on behalf of her own people. Silwa was mad because Mangtai told her name. She won't be seeing him again this. Besides, she didn't come here to introduce herself to someone like him. She asked him would take the qualification test to enter the human realm. If he go back on your word, she might just get angry. That child is in a similar situation as you. Despite being quite young, she wants to enter the human realm. He keep putting off dealing with her because he already have a lot on his plate. But she keeps on insisting to let her take the test. In any case, Siwa should take a look at her today. Silwa was mad because in the first place, why do she have to take this test? Whether it's transformation magic or monster force. There are countless monsters that are weaker than her have been dormant for 500 years. Mangtai looked at her and he was aware of that. That's why it's difficult to hastily judge her qualifications. To avoid being exposed among humans, not only basic skill, but she must also have patience and self-control. Silwa understand what he's trying to say. So she hoped this isn't just an excuse to avoid having to deal with her. Mangtai wouldn't have called her here if that's what he was thinking. With the festival just round the corner and the old law set to expire in 6 months, why would he want to indulge in her whims when he was too busy? However, this must be fortunate timing. There couldn't be a better opportunity to see if she could blend in with humans, without any trouble aside from this one. As she have already seen Choi Siwoo as a human, there is no better way to judge her qualification than this. They are both surprised and Silwa said, "Wait, could it be?" Mangtai told to her that he will give her until the end of the month. He asked her to teach him the basics of being a monster, including transformation magic. If he see that she have made a certain amount of progress after a month, he will judge the two of them as qualified to venture into the human realm. Silwa was mad and pointed her finger to Siwoo, what she supposed to teach someone like him in just a month. It would have been better if he had said outright that she couldn't give it to her. Mangtai said, if that's what she think, then she will only have to wait 6 months. He asked what is the difference if she leave a month earlier anyway. Whether she give up here or decide to teach him. It's entirely up to her. He threw his magical cloth and said, personally, he believed that it's quite possible. And then he vanished. Silwa asked Siwoo if he know what monster force is. He said he don't know and she have no choice. Suddenly he looked scared. A monster appeared behind Silwa and she asked him what's with that expression. Big Mount pointed his finger and said that little fox that little on his mind. Where did old man go off to? The fight isn't over yet. Silwa was fierce because of lowly beings like him, monsters are insulted by humans. The monster launched an attack towards to Silwa, but she wrapped his body with chains and he can't move. She smiled and told he keep doing what he's doing. The fox who hide their 9 tails are said to be the closest to the pinnacle of the monsters on the Korean peninsula. A series of surreal scenes before his eyes. But the boy no longer groaned. Just standing there frozen in surprise. Won't help him in his current situation. The situation he is facing currently is a reality where he has to accept and adapt somehow. Silwa asked Siwoo if he saw that. She said that this is magic. It's the ability to consume and use energy and forces. Siwoo stared at her while listening. There are 2 types of magic. It's divided into unique magic and acquired magic. Silwa was sure he already know what the first unique magic is. An example is the Goblin Serum, a race-specific ability that his bloodline remembers. To use it, he don't have to learn anything special, and it's as easy as breathing when he get the hang of it. But in the case of acquired magic, it is different. Any monster can use it as long as they learn it. Learning and training are essential for that. Sealwa pointed her finger and said that he see this guy who's stuck. He neglected his training because of his natural size and strength, and now he gets humiliated by simple binding. He's just a sample of things that are grossly inferior to her. Anyway, now that it has come to this, she's going to teach him. Let her be clear in advance. She don't like annoying processes. If the results are not worth her time, he'd feel her wrath. So if he is not ready, she recommend him to give up now. It will be hard for someone like him who was a human a few minutes ago. He might really lose his life if she disappoint her. Saiwu understand of what she's saying. Even so, if she will teach him, he will do his best or die trying. He really need to learn no matter what. He's not in a place where he can worry about the future. Sealwa was wondered and smiled, all right. Her thing he will likely fail. But it's better than not trying at all. Then shall we have our meal first? Saiwu's face was surprised and asked meal. She stand there with a magical aura in her. As she said, it takes consuming forces to perform magic. The power of all the inhabitants of this monster world. But he won't have a lot right now. Normally, it accumulates naturally just by breathing in the air of the monster world and eating food and water. But he just arrived today in this monster world. Nothing would have accumulated with only his normal diet of the human world. So the power you've had since birth is probably all he have. Sealwa asks Saiwu if he is hungry. After all that hard work, she is sure he must starve. He said no, well, he don't feel that hungry right now. Suddenly he in pain and his body was shaking. His vein in his body are start to glow purple. He look his hand shaking. Sealwa was right, he have very little force left in him. He have probably got only a handful left. The one piggyback ride must have exhausted everything. It is a typical depletion of the force. She start walk towards him. The solution to his problem is simple. She hugs Saiwu at the back tells if he see that guy. There are rules among monsters. If the judge declared the winner of the formal duel, she was close his ears and whisper, the right to life and death of the loser is in the hands of the winner. While Saiwu was hungry, Sealwa told to him to eat the defeated monster and consume his force. That's the most effective and simple way to get the force. With his size, he'll be a good mean for him. His hunger will go away afterwards. At that point, Saiwu moved forward with instinct, not reason. For the first time in his life, he felt a demonic hunger coursing through him. The desire was fueled by the whispering of the nine-tailed fox, and the only thing in his head was just an instinct to prey. However, if there is something that Sealwa has not thought of before, it is that the greedy goblin's nature will try to capture a prey that is much more nutritious and delicious. Sealwa was shocked when she saw Saiwu jumps at her, and he is ready to attack her. But she quickly cast her binding magic to him. She sighs and said seriously, no matter how hungry he is, he shouldn't be so arrogant. A half-baked monster like him. Really think he can eat her. She must have looked pretty easy to her. She have to properly fix his bad manners. Saiwu managed to break her chain binding magic. She was shocked even if it's just one, he broke off one. Just with his arm strength. He launched a powerful punch to her but she dodged it. He stares at her with fierce. Even if he is half-baked, a goblin is still a goblin. That what he want to show while casting magic into her finger. She acknowledged him and moved forward to launch an attack. Saiwu launched an attack and is trying to touch her, but she cast the spell with her finger and start to draw a circle. She summoned a huge demon fist directly to him, but he managed to block at his arms and he was shocked. A huge palm smashed him to the ground that caused the place unrecognizable, but there is something happen in that moment. She said, even if he's dead, there's no helping it. He was asking for death anyway when he attacked her. She didn't really expect much from him. Sealwa was shocked when he saw him still alive and standing. The fact that the boy just awakened. Even among the powerful goblins, only few could be chosen to be enlightened for their unique magic. In spite of its scarcity, with overwhelming power, he showed the ability to become a symbol of the goblin race. Siwa reached his hoard and pulled a black sword while Sealwa was smiling, and for a half-baked goblin, he sure have shown a lot of sides. His holding his black sword, a goblin's club unique magic. Sealwa was an outstanding monster. A genius who had attained 9 tails even before reaching the age 100. A talent gained from a Korean peninsula demon fox family in 1,000 years. That's why she could feel it so clearly. Goblin's Club, just how dangerous the wicked item she was coming face to face with for the first time in her life. If she just simply think about the monster force amount, then she have no reason to lose. But what is this pressure? Siwa moved forward holding his black lightning. She looked and felt the pressure. He launched an attack directly to her. A Goblin Club transformation, Thundering Strike. Sealwa was ready to block it with her hand and analyzing the situation at the same time. He was able to catch it and black lightning using his summoning demon hand. She said, "Yeah, it's this kind of feelings." The club of a goblin. He launched another attack to her. She was smiling in the middle of the fight, and then she should show what she have got as well. The demon hand pulled the black lightning, he joined with the force, and she smiled and smashed it to the ground. She was wondering if the fight is over. She think about the sickening endurance she saw just now. She will have to smash him down about 5 or 6 times for him to get his act together. Suddenly, she was surprised. Siwa's starting to pull at the black lightning back. She can't believe it. Even if it's just one arm. It's possible to fight against the great prostrating demon emperor. He successfully pulled it back when the demon hand released. A tool that freely changes forms according to its user's will and purpose. That's why in the past, when the goblins were alive and well, monsters would call the Goblins Club a weapon that can become anything. She was serious, the shape and attack method. The two of them have both changed. To make it hard to respond from here. That club its power aside. The cost-effectiveness and practical ability of magic is at a ridiculous level. Rather than give him room to get an ample amount of firepower. Deception of the great prostrating demon emperor. Sealwa released her second tail resulting in the name Demon Hand. Meanwhile, he is ready with his new weapon. He started the attack with his twin chaotic hand slap, which he quickly blocked the attacks. She scratched her head. Even this. He's holding on real tight. She can't believe even those who have sloppily reached the age of 100 or 200 years are no match for him. She can tell why those goblins were so good for a halfling that's barely just opened his eyes to be at that level. But this is all there is to it. No matter how cost-effective it is. It looks like his magic is finally reaching its limit. If they keep at it like this, in the end, he's going to keep going until his body breaks apart. Really, it can't be helped. The demon's hand continues to attack him without end. He raised his finger and said 3 tails, but he took it back so he decided to use 5 more tails. She have every reason to be proud. Whether it's his first time. His opponent who emits this much is an actual fight. The deception of the great prostrating demon emperor upper half. He jumps and moved forward to the attack the half-demon from the top, but the demon used his first strike. He don't have any strength to block it and he threw away. She managed to defeat him with her 5 tails magic. Siwa laid his body to the ground. This is hopeless. Was she a bit late? This is incredibly unfortunate, but he'll die soon. The collapse caused by the magic depletion has already begun. But it's his responsibility. Since he's the foolish one who didn't know his place and didn't even know up to the point his body was breaking apart. Look like she's going to get a huge scolding from that grandpa. He was crying and is looking for his mom. She looked at him and decided to help him. She chanted magic to make him float and pulled near to her. She grabs her head and kissed him. From 5 tails. To the magic from the fox bead she kept from a short while ago. If he don't give returns for the investment, then he will really get it from her. After a while, Siwa wakes up and wondering what's happened to him and where he's at. He looked to the door and she entered the room. He saw Sealwa holding a cup of medicine. She was emotionless and looked at him. Siwa was scared, smiling at her. Siwa said to Sealwa that he's really sorry. He remember everything. About what he do. He don't know how it was possible, but despite being fully conscious, he couldn't control his body. Anyway, he's really sorry. Sealwa were only trying to help him, but because of him, she were put in danger instead. Sealwa pointed his finger to the cup and she said to drink it before it gets cold. He picked up the cup and he said yes ma'am. He thanked her for the drink. It's like oriental medicine. He don't like the taste of it and he asked what's it made out of, but Sealwa will kill him if he spit it out. Knowing what's is made won't help him finish it. She won't perter him, so drink up. And listen while drinking. First of all, he forgot something important. That giant-mouthed goblin must have run away while they were fighting. Regardless, ownership is still him. He's probably hiding somewhere, curling up for 100 years. Since he knows that it'll work right away if he's caught. It was a tonic perfect for a halfling like him. Seems like he spit out what was in your mouth. He asked if there is no alternative method. She said look at him. Do he still think he is a human? If he is not prepared to hurt someone to get stronger, then it's not that. He said it still hasn't registered that he is killing or eating monsters. And it's true that he don't want to. But to be honest, no matter who it is, in his point of view, they're all dangerous monsters who hurt people. If he don't do things correctly, in a few months, the people he know will face a terrible fate. If he need to kill, he will kill, and if he need to eat them, he will. He have already told her. He will do his utmost. He asked Sealwa if there was an alternative method. Not because he wouldn't eat them. He's asking just in case there isn't another chance for it. She have already told him, but the most effective way to increase his monster force is to eat other monsters. However, as far as it goes, it's only possible when it's a duel the both of him have agreed upon. Since if there's no rule like that, weak fellows will be caught and eaten and won't survive. Additionally, easy prey won't come to him anymore. Even if he is a halfling, countless monsters as that he is a goblin who knows a bit of serum. And rumors about him have probably spread everywhere. Fellows who he will easily be able to eat won't want to fight him. The ones who'll come to him will be the opposite. They'll be monsters he won't be able to handle at his level. But if he have lost a pheasant, he should boil and eat a chicken instead. Seal was said to come outside. She have a present for him. In the outside of the house, he was surprised when he saw it. She was smiling while show her present to him. She asked what do he think, it's okay right? He asked if isn't that a monster? She answered it is and it isn't. Technically speaking, it lost its rights as a monster. Their causes are all different, but some monsters lose their sense of reasoning and lose themselves to their instincts. He were just like, weren't him. However, in cases where they aren't lucky as him and do something they can undo, they stigmatize them as beasts, not monsters, and they deprive them of their rights as monsters. Shudderwock. That's what they call them in the Korean peninsula. She asked him why he is just staring like that. She told him, didn't she? It's a beast that's lost its sense of reasoning. He was shocked when there is a beast behind him and starts attacking him, but he managed to dodge it. At first, she thought he'd freeze and hesitate, leading him to get beaten up. But he's using his body better than she expected. Did she underestimate him? However, even so, he must just be running away for as long as possible. His opponent is originally from the fire dog family and made a name for himself. However, because of his greed of wanting to represent his family in the festival, he was found guilty of forcefully kidnapping monsters and eating them. He surpassed his limit and couldn't handle the monster force, so he went crazy. The beast attacked him, but he avoided it. He was surprised and the beast tried to bite him. As expected, is he unable to swing the club consciously. It's not like she expected anything different. This isn't a fight she's expecting Saiwa to win. Even though he lost his sense of reasoning, he's an opponent whose physical ability is one level higher. Moreover, he's not compatible with the grabbing and throwing aspect of serum. It was a cruel but definitive method to awaken his instinct. That only comes out when he's on the brink of death. Saiwa positioned his hand as a boxer. She was shocked when she saw it. He launched an attack and punched the monster in the face. Before he became a goblin, he was just a fat man wanted to lose weight, so he trained and do boxing. He trainer said the athleticism is better than he thought. To be honest, because he said his goal was to lose weight, he didn't think it'd be this good. He asked if he have any thoughts on learning boxing properly. He answered when he lose weight, he will think about it. The trainer said to him that he will naturally lose it if he is consistent. Let's do it for just 6 months. If he is willing, this brother will take care of your diet and training. With your skill, you could definitely aim for competitions. And your weight will naturally shed off your body too. He avoided the attack from the beast and started punching him. It'd be nice if boxing had an effect. Unlike other who trained in martial arts, his goal was not physical strength or fighting. He wanted to lose weight. Was his ordinary simple, yet desperate concern. Despite his consistent effort, it never came to fruition. But he never gave up. Since the upper grades of elementary school, the types of sports he's done total to 16. Among them, 7 of them were combat sports. Although the training periods were short and his weight loss didn't reach his goal, his efforts and his natural-born athleticism as a goblin made him perfectly absorb all the skills from those 7 combat sports. Sealwa was shocked of what she heard said. What does make sense? Saiwa managed to defeat the beast using his skills and experience in combat sports. He said this is how he's supposed to eat this. The monster fell to the ground and looked at his hands. In the distance, Sealwa was asked if this was really martial arts. She hoped that isn't the kind of power he had from the start. It's a technique created by humans in the end, as it isn't made to match a monster's body and strength. It hasn't even been long since he's gained a monster's body either. But in an actual fight, he was able to cleanly get a sense of things and use it. More that she thought, his potential is higher. So what more does she need to do from here now? Saiwu asked her for the time being. He do think he have one. Surely he won't have to eat it to clean it up exactly like her. She smiled and told him of course that isn't it. Saiwu was listening to her. First, they should talk after he have definitely won. Suddenly, he got bites to his shoulder by the beast and threw him to the ground. The beast is smiling while looking at him. He was scared and the blood flow in his shoulder. Then the beast launched an attack again and it landed directly into his face. Sealwa wondering how has this happened. She's sure there'd even be more than enough time left after he respawned. He was scared and his whole body was shaking. The biggest reason why humans are scared of getting injured isn't because of the pain. Fear that a part of one's body may either be permanently deformed or completely lost altogether. It's one of the primal fears that living organisms called humans are born with. And enough of a reason to cause a 17-year-old bot to have a panic. The beast stares at him, then he was surprised that his shoulder regenerates. The beast launched an attack while he is wondering the wounds in his body are start to heal. He avoided the attack from the beast. Humans and monsters. There are so many differences between the two species that it's meaningless to count. But if we're to pick the biggest difference from amongst them, it'd be the body's durability and recuperative ability. And it'll also be the gap between mindset and behavior that stems from it. So long as you aren't dead or fatally wounded, injuries are meaningless. The moment he accepted it as common sense. The restriction on the body from her body unconscious self to protect itself ID lifted. And the limitations of which physical abilities can be exercised are increased greatly. He punched with a strong and fierce force that caused him to be thrown far away. His arm feels like it's going to break, but it definitely did pay off. The blows have gotten several times stronger, much more than compared to before. As the rebound it'd get from just swinging his fist and felt like he was getting hit by car. But he not the only one here with the ability to regenerate. If he think about what just happened, he don't think it'll be weird if it happens again. Sealwa told him that this marks the end. The blows he landed earlier were stuck in well. The location as with as the force. Although it won't die, it won't be able to recover immediately and get back up. She asked what he think. The feeling of not losing all sense of rationality and using magic with a sound mind for the first time in his life. He was surprised that he used magic without noticing. He didn't particularly do anything though. She told to him that using magic isn't a grandiose thing. Even if it isn't high-level magic, magic can be used in various ways, he see. Even his body rapidly regenerated due to the fact he had used magic. Even the last fist he swung was the result of the magic used in addition to his physical ability, besides the fact struck powerfully. She asked him if there anything else that he felt. He looked his hands and is not completely sure. But it seemed like he felt something similar to static electricity. Sealwa told if what you felt is correct, then that's probably magic. The reason why he made him fight that thing over there is also for the experience. Because if he fights so that there's blood and you struggle to win, he will unwittingly display his magic. She cast him magic to the beast and make him float. She said that she was a bit surprised. She thought he'd have to roll around for at least 10 days before he'd get a rough sense of things. She will compliment him, he's quite talented. Saiwu was shy when he heard it. She pulled the beast near him and told that he should finish it now. She looked at him and asked that he prepared to do it. She think it's a redundant question. But until now, she asked if he killed anyone. Saiwu said none. She told to him that ending it in one of his best for both himself and for it. If he just sloppily leave fatal wounds, then it'll make a last-ditch effort. Above the belly button. For the majority of humanoid monsters, it's the pressure point, as well as the internal cinnabar that monsters store their magic. Gathering you magic, pierce it in one swing. She told him that everything's hard during the first try, much less this task. In order to gain the weight, if he is killing anyone and consuming them, whatever the reason or justification may be, very few will feel any sort of resistance. Saiwu punched the beast while remembering his friend and loved ones. She asked if he grabbed something in his fist and opened his fist. She explains what those are. That's the internal cinnabar he spoke of earlier. It's an item also called the magic bead. If he swallow that, the owner's magic will become his. He swallowed it like she said. He looked his hands, but isn't anything going to happen immediately after? It's weird. He was surprised when the bird landed into his shoulder. The bird said originally, there should be something like bam, bam, and boom. As soon as you swallow it though. He was shocked and scared. What the heck is this? Suddenly the bird transformed into cute girl. Sealwa told to her what brings she's here out of the blue. She is sure she don't have any business with her either. She said how disappointing. Amongst friends, do they really have to have a reason to meet? Although it's true that she came because she have some business. Saiwu stares at her and wondering while he is listening. She was happy and asked him if he is the half-goblin from the rumors. She introduced herself. She's Solmi, nice to meet him. Solmi was a friend who's played with Sealwa over there since they were younger. Saiwu introduced himself also. He told his name choice Saiwu while Sealwa was irritated while asking her what the business is. Solmi told her as she's also aware, she have been going about, working part-time under Grandpa Bogeyman. It means taking in workers. It's something the humans say. Saiwu wondering and thought that person not only their way of speaking, but something. Solmi said since she's the one who caught those two demons. She have come instead of Grandpa to handle the settlement and give the rewarded for catching them. Sealwa said it's fine, so give it all to him. Since he's the one who knocked them out alone. He's more than qualified. Solmi came to him and she told that she know. She was basically watching from the start too. He's incredible impressive. To the point that she can't believe he was human up until recently. At this rate, won't something really happen during the festival? Where he may even become his leading competitor. Sealwa smiled and said just up to there. She asked what festival, when he'll be taken down the second he steps foot. Solmi was happy and wonders she think he has enough potential. She said to Saiwu, she's going to give his a reward now. It's been a while, so she will give him a choice. The chance to go home right this instant and a chance to take a step forward as a strong monster. She was happy and asked Saiwu, which one do you want? At their school, a boy walks in with someone on the phone. He didn't even show up at school and his phone's shut off. He picked up this unknown number in case it might have been him. He asked if there is something wrong. Saiwu said no, is what he wants to say, but he can't. Yushin, he has a really crazy favor he has to ask him. It's okay if you don't do it if he thinks it's too much. Saiwu said to Yushin, he really only has him. He said just tell him what it is already. He was shocked of what he heard. He said what kind of bullshit you are spouting. He asks where the hell Saiwu right now. Saiwu told him right now. He has some unavoidable circumstances. His mom's going to go crazy if she finds out that he disappeared for a month without absolutely anything. Yushin said to him that his mom's family. That traditional martial arts training center in Andon. Or something like that. Phase it so that he went there for exactly just a month to really lose weight. He thought he knew this already, but that isn't a place that just accepts regular people. Saiwa said he know. It's really absorbed and outrageous. And he know that it's an inconvenience. But he really have no other choice, which is why he is asking him. Yashin said all right. Instead, he asks him one thing. He said that he can't talk about the reason. If by chance he is acting like that because he wouldn't believe him, then he can just tell him. Because who knows, he might even be of help to him. Solmi said to Saiwa that it's okay to lie, but speaking of their existence is a breach of rules. She will even be punished along with him. Yashin said if something happens, and if he can reach out to him, then make sure to do so. The call ended and probably isn't it. Right? Saiwa took a deep breath. In the underworld, Saiwa said to Solmi that she's saying he could go back right now. But he heard that it's only possible if she is qualified. Solmi responds, yeah, that is true. But she don't make up things that don't exist. If he really do want to go back, then she can send him back to the human world tight this very moment. So, what do you want to pick between the two? Saiwa said it's all right. Leaving here after a month. He will do that after he passed the test he is supposed to take. Solmi was wondered, how come? Saiwa said if he don't learn things properly right now, then something a lot worse than not being able to go home will happen. With the fight that just happened, he was convinced once more that he must have the power to respond to such situations. So, he have decided that he will hone his abilities further as a monster. That's the reason. Solmi was amazed and gave a thumbs up to him. She said what he said just now was really. It was so much cooler that she had to expect. Like a protagonist. Meanwhile, Silwa was a bit mad that she told to Solmi if she is having fun. Teasing a kid with a choice that doesn't even exist. Just give him what she need to already. There is no way that'd be the reward. She was idiot. It's this punk, bad habit. Often leading others on for no reason and sounding them out. Solmi said they call something like that a test. To know the other's personality, as well as what kind of mindset they have. Humans get to know each other by asking their sorts of questions. He didn't finish reading the book she gave him last time. Saiwa was thinking to Solmi, indeed, this person, from her way of speaking to her vibe. It's different from the other monsters. It's as if she's seeing someone. Silwa, she mean that nonsense theory. It was so childish and simple that she wasn't able to make it past a couple pages. Solmi responds that she personally made that for her to see though. If she want to turn into a human, then you have to memorize at least. In any case, she is going to take him out somewhere for a bit. Because he was thinking of taking him out once from the start and she liked his answer too. Saiwa pointed his finger to him if he was person they talk about. Suddenly, Solmi was happy when Silwa gave her approval and she cast her magic in front of him. Saiwa was surprised of what he see. Then Solmi transformed into a demonic crow. She said that she don't make up things that don't exist. She is a monster that has the right to go back and forth to the human world. Under the condition, he is responsible for everything that happens once every 6 months for a single day. She is able to make an unqualified monster out into the human world. She will probably feel quite nauseous. But she was sure she can handle that much. Silwa was in her poker face while listening to what Solmi said to her. Then, she will be back. After that happened, Saiwa thanked Solmi for letting him borrow her phone. Thanks to her, he was able to alleviate his worries. To an extent. Solmi was happy and she was glad that it was helpful, but will he really be alright with just one call to his friend? There's still some time left, and it will be better if he see his family once too. Saiwa said that his family only consists of his mother now. And it just so happens that she left town on a business trip. Truthfully, he think that's a bit of a relief, really. If she was home, she would have made quite a fuss instead. He asks Solmi if there's something she liked to eat. It's a bit minor to call it a repayment, but he will buy dinner. Solmi was happy when she heard it. That's great. There was something that she really wanted to try. It was something she wanted to try since the first time she made her trip to the human world. It was a bit too hard for her to eat, so she haven't had a single opportunity to eat it until now. Saiwa was curious. He said what it is. He prepared the food, and he tried to set up the table with everything he had at home. But will she really be satisfied with just this? Solmi was happy and said she pretty satisfied for the food. She have always really wanted to try homemade food since long ago. Since the only human food she have ever tried are things she have bought herself as well as school food. Saiwa was shocked. He asked her about the school food. Solmi said since she attends school and she asks him if he know Hojung High. He said that's right next to his school. She was been attending since the beginning of this year, but she didn't have a friend that she is close enough with their home. He is probably the first. Saiwa think from her personality alone, she seems like the type to have many friends though. Solmi thanked him for the meal. It was really good. It really has a different vibe from food that you but at a restaurant. She pop up an item through the air. Then, she should give him the reward she mentioned earlier. This scroll right here is called a monster storage. It isn't the same exact thing to be exact. But shall she call it like the bag and smartphone that they use? Like what she did just now. He can call it freely and it can display what he want if he move his finger like this, as if you are scrolling in a phone. Saiwu was shocked on what he saw. She demonstrate on how he can store and take out items. He can carry items without having to think about the weight or size of them. She hand over the box to him, and she said there are other uses besides that, but if he uses a few times, he will be able to familiarize himself with it pretty easily. He opened the box and Solmi told him that the one in the middle is the monster storage he will be using. The pile of coins on the left is called goblin face coins. It's a currency that has quite a high value even in the monster world. And the 40 niang he just received is quite a sizable amount, so use it carefully. And lastly, the item in the right is the goblin treasure that's been passed down. They are items that can display various abilities by imbuing monster force. Solmi was happy to mention to him that how those old folk tales, stuff like that occasionally pop up. Typically, it's only standard to be given goblin face coins as a reward for catching a shutterwalk. But seeing how he told her to pack this along too, looked like Grandpa Bogeyman has some high hopes for him. Saiwa was surprised. High hopes probably means in regards to the great festival. To pick the king of the monsters. Solmi said of course, although they aren't to the extent of humans, they are monsters also do feel a sense of belonging towards their region. If a monster from the Korean peninsula becomes the monster king, that will be something to boast about. Moreover, she heard that it was regrettable during the most recent great festival too. Saiwu asks her about the monster from the Korean peninsula almost became the king. She said to him, yeah, from what she have heard, they were there until the very end. And she heard that it was an incredibly close match with the current monster king. She pointed him and said what more is interesting is the fact that the monster's species was a Dakibi like him. Of course, they were so strong that is the entire history of the monsters living in the Korean peninsula. There was no one that could rival them. Saiwu was holding the goblin treasure, even hearing that. He didn't even know he was a monster until yesterday. Truthfully, there's still a part of him that wonders what this all is. He think he spend cry minute thinking that he wish he could wake up quickly if this was just a dream. Solmi was shocked said she think that Saiwu was adapted quite quickly and quite well for someone who say that though. Even when she met him for the first time earlier and heard his resolve, he left quite an impression. Did he know that? And while he have made his resolve, it might not be so bad to set his goal higher too. Humans being threatened by the resetting of laws with the change of rulers. That's what he was afraid of. If that's the case, then he can be the Monster King and maintain the current rules for the next 666 years. Saiwu was shocked upon hearing on what she said. Then he asked Solmi if she don't mind, he have a question for her. Solmi was a bit happy and told him that whatever he want. It feels like she have made a human friend. If he was curious about something, then she will try to answer to the best of her knowledge. Saiwa told to her if it isn't much. But the shutterwalk. Monster storage next to her. Just now, it's been flashing like that. Solmi said it's an emergency call order. It reaches out to the monsters in the area whenever there is a serious emergency situation. If an emergency call order is sent down in the human world, the only reason why that would happen is because some monster broke the rulers or they harmed a human. Something like this hasn't happened once in the past few decades. There is no way an emergency call order would. Then suddenly she realized of the she's talking about and starts to panic. When the night has come, Saiwu was practicing his monster storage by simply moving his hand gesture. He put his hand in like this. He pulled the goblin's treasure, and he just put this on and go around with it. It is like armor. He will have to ask how to use it later. He looked to the clock and said it won't take long. Meanwhile, Solmi got panic and pick up her phone. It's a little past 6 right now. Half a day is 6 hours, and since they came at 4, they just need to go back by 10 p.m. She told him that she will be back in a flash, so she just have to sit tight and wait for him to return. She was happy and said to Saiwa that he can speak comfortably with her. They were friend already. She said when she come back, just call her Solmi. Saiwa was worried because it's already past 10. He wondered if something happened. If he knew this would happen, he should have gotten her number at least. He saw a picture of his father and thought if he have goblin blood flowing through his veins, then it's probably from father's side. He remembered what Mangtai said. Even if that's the case, he was probably about a 4th or 5th generation. Although he was only a bit mixed. Did his father know that he himself was born of goblin blood? Suddenly he noticed something outside and he thinks Solmi. Meanwhile at street, a man was choked by a monster with sharp teeth and claws. He started to attach, but Solmi came to the rescue. Seriously, she have been catching him again and again, yet there's no end in sight. At this rate, she is really not going to have any feather left. The monster turned his head around. Solmi was ready to cast her magic. Things like him don't even feel pain. He suddenly jump and escape. The man was scared and shaking on what he witnessed just now. Solmi taking care of his friend and she said that don't worry. His friend will be alright. The injury isn't that deep and she have put on a salve to stop the bleeding and the ambulance will soon be here too. The monster came back and he is on the rooftop. She felt the pressure around her surroundings. Suddenly the monster attacked her, but he was sliced and vanished. Saiwu was surprised and she saw a man approaching to her. The man said that she must keep her head straight. Because the day that rumor spread that she have been beaten by that sort of thing will be the day she's entire family won't be able to go around with their head held high. Solmi felt relieved. It isn't a family with a good reputation to begin with. And she knew that he'd be her side too. Then she called him Appa. The man answered who she was calling Appa. If he was a bit older and close to her, then he is an Appa. If he don't like it, then she will comfortably call him by his name. Then she called him Gyu. Gyu cast his magic through his fingers to man. Isn't there an option to be called in a polite and courteous manner? Then Oraboni, just call him whatever she want. He hypnotized the man to think today simply as an unlucky day. A car that appeared in the alleyway hit him and his friend, and the driver ran away in a hurry. Until the ambulance comes, don't be afraid and rest comfortably. Solmi said that he has a hypnosis magic isn't his family's inherent ability though. She heard learning something separately hard though. She also tried to learn from Sealwa, but she just got scolded and gave up. She asks him if he does that mean he was a front runner. Gyu said 2 here, and he asked if how many she have caught until now. Solmi said, including the ones that he helped her with, a total of 24. And there wasn't even a proper monster among them either. They are all shutterwalks. They are all on leashes, evil spirits controlled by someone. She was worried. Just what she saw. They have killed 7. And injured ever 50. She asked who the hell and why exactly would they do such a thing. She was sure they are aware of just how heavy the crime of maiming human is. And what sort of amusement are they getting from such carnage? Gyu told her that she was wrong. It isn't for amusement, but for gain. She asked him if they are killing humans for some sort of gain. She don't understand. That's reasonable as it isn't something that's well known to their generation. Since the olden days, humans have been eaten up by goblins, and it wasn't just to satisfy their sadism or appetite either. Consuming human blood and human flesh. Because that itself is an incredibly potent health food to them as a monsters. Solmi can't believe it. She have never heard something like that until now. Gyu said it was a widely known fact long ago. Something that just wasn't passed on to their generation. She can easily become strong by eating human meat. If that truth is known, then will the human world be as quiet as it is now? Salmi realized when she was with Grandpa Mangtai, she will probably know well since she have taken the qualification test. As there aren't many instances where young kids like us, not even 500 years old yet, that would choose to struggle to take that complicated test. Unless they are oddballs like them. It's a boring and frustrating place where there is no real need to go in and out until the law changes. That's our generation's perception of the human world. Gayu said that this current moment, when we're near the festival, everyone's searching desperately to be even the littlest bit stronger. There are monsters who are aware of the secret regarding humans and are willing to take risk. She should know as well if she was helping Grandpa Bogeyman. That in recent days, there have been many that have destroyed themselves by going too far trying to get power. Not understanding isn't a motive, but a mindset. If it was him, he would have never created this sort of mess. Rather than attracting attention by using evil spirits that can't even move delicately, he would have done it himself, swiftly and surely capturing them one by one before eating them. Salmi said that they must be an extremely pathetic coward. Would a coward who isn't even able to attack humans who can't resist be bold enough to move themselves? He said even if they are evil spirits, if they have the skill to call forth hundreds, then they may think that it's safer to do that than it is to step forward themselves. Salmi was worried and told him then he'd go and tell them or something. That instead of acting like a bastard who's desperate for attention, just properly. Suddenly she saw Saiwa. This damn idiot. He will get going first. She asked Appa if he'd do the cleanup. Saiwa was looked left and right. He was sure it was closed. Even just a second ago though, a man stares at him at his back. He moved forward and think that if he knew just how defenseless he'd be, he wouldn't have gone out of his way to put in that much effort. The man attempts to stab him. But Saiwa dodged it, he grabs his hand and launch a counterattack. Saiwa thought his heart was going to leap out of his chest. Ability, he don't want to go so far as to call it that. But one of the goblin's characteristics. That is this really. That he rarely get beaten twice with similar tactics. At that moment, the cold chill he felt right before they came swarming. If he didn't recognize that it was the same feeling, then he would have been helplessly killed. Anyway, he did toss its own without thinking about it. But hopefully no one got caught up by it. There's nothing to worry about. Suddenly, Saiwa got choked by the monster. He said he have already put all the humans in this area to sleep as he see. Because if they all go screaming at once, he's not that comfortable enough with handling the cleanup. He asks if he was really a rumored goblin. Not only does his monster force not look that strong, he would strike quite powerfully. He choked him by his tails and jumps off to the building and he smashed him to the ground. Saiwa was scared and his body is shaking after taking that damage. The monster told him that he didn't have any intentions of dropping him this far. He wondered if the ground became weakened after he fell earlier. He was laughing at him. Humans will probably think it's due to poor construction or a gas pipe explosion. This is quite an unfortunate incident for the people living here. But the house prices will fall a bit. A monster that harms humans and Solmi, who hasn't returned. Wouldn't it have been nice if you had just croaked after one toss, kiddo? Saiwa was trying to get on his feet to the ground. The main culprit of both problem is the man standing before him. The boy understood that it was all because of a monster. The monster was happy while saying it's just a nuisance if he struggle. And because on top of that, he had a hunch. That right now, he was facing an absurd danger. He said to him that he will give a one chance if he just let himself be eaten by him without uttering a word. Saiwa looked at him with fierce in his face. The monster said he don't want to be looked like that, since it isn't something that will ever negatively impact him. Both of them have quite the class difference as monsters. He will just die more painfully if he struggle. And if the results are going to be the same, then isn't it better to have a painless death? And if it's now, he can even make him a promise. Saiwa was surprised when he saw the monster holding the picture of his mom. The monster said to him that he will just let his mother off the hook and devour the others. Suddenly, Saiwa launched an attack to him and he hit him in the face. Then he grabbed his suit. But something happened to him, he did not able to move. The monster was apologizing to him. Even still, it was quite a crude and banal threat. Even he think it was a bit too much. But what can they do? He used his unique magic. He can't think of an appropriate provocation line. His unique magic's poison. The power isn't that bad, but he have to be touched directly in order to activate it. It's an incredibly shitty ability. He can't even get the chance to use it against those who are stronger than him. And it just barely worked on him after he racked his brains a bit. He heard that those born of good bloodlines are able to pin others down with just stare. Saiwu was unable to move and the poison starts to move into his vein. He can't muster any strength in his body, like he's experiencing sleep paralysis. The monster said to him it's an unfair life. In the already determined rules, weak things have no choice but to be preyed on. If he knew how to use the thing on his arm, then things might have been different. Disasters don't wait until you are ready to occur. He will remember him fondly. So keep that in mind in your next life. Saiwu was smiling, it not that he cannot move at all. If it's just one move, this feeling that he can work it out somehow. The monster was ready to attack him, same as Saiwu focusing his magic into his fist. Then he launched toward the monster. He managed to dodge somehow. He seriously could have almost died. The monster attacked him using his tail. Saiwu threw away straight to the wall. Even though the poison has now circulated properly, to still make such an effort. He was wondering if a weak goblin's still a goblin. Suddenly he noticed there's a things as his body and a masked man appears and starts to chant his magic. The daggers start to glow and the monster was electrocuted. The masked man told to Saiwu that he was sure his knight hasn't arrived yet, though while Saiwu stares at him. He moved forward to approach the monster. He was good for nothing. The monster said, holding a useless weapon. Isn't deepening his voice and talking a human exorcist's specialty? Where did they even teach people how to talk like that? He did by some time, but it wasn't to the point that he'd get caught though. How did he catch wind and get here already? Besides that, this punk's dangerous. He is on a whole different level from those ambiguous shamans. The masked man started to draw his sword. The monster can't decide if he leave or not. If he drag things out any longer, it will really be over for him. That crow girl was also quite difficult. But if even that punk shows up, then he will never be able to beat him. Even if he came back from the dead. He felt pain while grabbing his wounds. Suddenly the masked man noticed the blood flow in from of him. The monster said if he could, he really wanted to save this until the festival. He summoned the black shadow monster. When he was sane, he was someone who spread his name far and wide in the West. Though he was not sure how he ended up in that state, that body was a deity-class monster by nature. Have fun playing with him. He is pretty good match for crazy about looking good. Then, shall he finish the meal before he was interrupted? The black monster starts to fire in his mouth while the masked man charged in, and he managed to deflect his attack using his sword and slice the monster into 2 pieces. The monster was shocked, and the masked man stabbed him in his head. Saiwu was surprised of what he witnessed. The masked man told to Saiwu that it doesn't look like he was on the same team as this insect. If he want to survive, then it had be best to answer exactly the questions he asked. Saiwu can't believe it even after hearing his voice. And he asked him if he recognized his voice. Then the masked man removed his mask and he was shocked that he saw Saiwu and told him just what does that look. He was happy to see him and told Yushin it's a really long story. Yushin asked Saiwu what happened to him. Forget about his body, how on wrath he dealt with that creature. Saiwu told to him to wait. He suddenly feel out of breath. Poison, and not just an ordinary poison, but an ability. With the emergency medicine he have now, he can't heal this. No need to talk about it now. Wait here for a moment. Yushin was surprised and thought the natural healing is it taking place. Then he noticed the monster escape. This is getting insane seriously. Saiwu asked Yushin if he was feeling a bit better now, that he responded like he could be. And to make matters worse, a friend they have known for 3 years turned out to be a supernatural hybrid. And to think that friend was a goblin hybrid. For the 3 years, fight in front of them. They ever sensed a thing. They criticized the Minister of National Defense for wanting to be the Moon King over a subject they didn't even suspect. If his father knew, he'd probably laugh and say he was a clueless. Saiwu was happy and asked him if he never told to him exactly that kind of training center it was. It's our family duty to train and eradicate supernatural creatures. In not, he had just been treated like a crazy bastard. But there's only 6 months left now. Saiwu was shocked because Yashin knew about the ancestral ceremony. He asked if this kind of thing is common. Supernatural beings coming to the human world and harming people. It wasn't that common. In fact, he could say it was quite rare. If they were just fighting among themselves, he wouldn't mind. But for supernatural entities to attack humans, it's been a handful of times in the past 100 years. But the story has changed a bit recently. He asked how recently. For yokai, humans are the ultimate power-up. Yokai who want to become kings have crossed the line. Now they are not only consuming virtues, but devouring humans. Since a month ago, the number of missing persons started rising, particularly in densely populated cities. While there's no concrete evidence linking these incidents to yokai, in most cases, there were signs of bloodshed or destruction left behind at the homes of the missing. However, this is the first time yokai have revealed themselves so directly. He noticed something in the sky. Suddenly, he put his guard up and picked up his swords. There a light coming from the sky and landed in front of them. It was Solmi and worried about him and asked if he was okay. Did he get hurt? She felt sorry for him and it like a complete idiot. Yashin pointed his sword to her. That's enough of that. Don't come any closer. While Solmi was worried and crying. If she take even one step in the direction, he will consider it as ignoring the warning and exterminate her immediately. Saiwa told him that person is, but Yashin interrupted him and said it probably not a human, but a yokai. They probably understand the concept of abiding by the law. So, he warned them instead of immediately striking them down. There is no reason to give a warning if she was going to strike them anyway. It's because of them. Like, they will say, if she was qualified as a yokai, they will let her loose in the human world. Does she even know what that means? Those things are monsters. Even if they look human on the surface and have individual differences, their true nature remains the same. Consumed by power and slaughter, they are monsters that even devour their own kind, including his fellow beings. No matter how mixed that blood may be, she was still human, Saiwa. This place is his home. He don't need the monster's permission to be here, let alone getting kidnapped forcibly. She was saying he need to become a monster to stay home. That's some nonsense that makes zero sense. No matter what happens, he can't let she go. Solmi felt she can somewhat grasp what's being said. Certainly, from Saiwa's perspective, all of this seems like an unreasonable calamity. However, Saiwa is already listed in the ledger of the supernatural. Regardless of his stance, he was a clear resident of the supernatural realm. Setting aside right and wrong, such a violation of the rules will bring about the worst consequences. For Saiwu and even for his shaman friend. They have to resolve this before things escalate any further. She will escape with Saiwu, doing her best not to hurt each other. Solmi grabbed her one feather. Just looking at the aura around him, she knew he was a strong person. Maybe Silwa or Gyu could handle this. But as for her, even if she can't say it aloud, she can't just stand by and do nothing. She said to him that she regret to inform him that as a guardian, she will have to take Saiwi with her. Yashin said while pointing his sword to her. If she was going to ignore the warning. Suddenly, Saiwi jumps towards to him and he grabbed his sword. Yashin was surprised to what happened. While Saiwa holding his sword, he got an interesting appearance. He asked, does this engraving have some sort of meaning? Yashin was wondering if Saiwa was being controlled by magic or hypnotized. That feat is totally different. He asked what he did. He might not understand the killing, but he think the term a yokai devouring its own kind due to madness suits to him. Starting with him now since he was already devoured someone today. They say it's a yokai whose rights have been stripped away. He was not sure what the truth is. Whatever happened, he killed someone who was alive to protect himself and those around him. And from now on, he planned to continue like that as much as possible. He have no intention of harming people or causing harm. But he have agreed to devour non-essential yokai if it makes him stronger, even if it means death. Yashin asking of him that he don't really need to go that far. Their household. Even if he have the power alone, with him and his mother, in about 6 months he will be safe enough in this world. He dropped his sword and told to him that continuing from earlier, he got one more thing to say. He was going to be the yokai king. Yashin was shocked of what Saiwa said. He yelled at him if he was seriously out of his mind. Do he even know what a yokai king is and what he was blabbering about? Saiwa said if he asked him to explain in detail, he might not have much to say, but he know. All he know is that he have a chance to give it a shot. As long as he succeed, the world doesn't necessarily have to turn horribly upside down. Yashin looked at him, but he said don't give him that look. Saiwa was smiling and asked what can he do to the situation like this. He don't know if it will work or not, but when did he start chasing after these things? It's better to do something until it becomes something that just staying still it suits for him. He want to give it a try. He will do it. Yashin picked up his sword and he understood what he said. Whether he was a human or a supernatural being, if his intentions are clear, he don't have the right to force it upon to him. But if there comes a time when he, as a supernatural being, crossed the line, he will eradicate him without hesitation. Saiwa was glad. That how it should be. If he have come to that judgment, it must be a time when he have done something terribly wrong. Even if he die for it. Yashin pick up his mask and asks the guardian what is her name. She said her name was Salmi. She hold the position of a promising messenger in the half-yokai court. Yashin apologized to her for interfering in the matters among her yokai. But among her yokai, he have heard there are also laws and tights to be upheld. If that fellow over there can't guarantee that and is unfairly killed or injured, with the position of the Star Hall's chief shaman, anything related, he will eliminate without mercy. He said to Saiwa that he wants to see him next time. Don't worry about his mother's affairs. He turned back and leave the place. Salmi felt relieved. She seriously thought she will die from fear. It her first to encounter a shaman. She asked if are they all this intimidating. Gayu told them both that it won't be the case. That guy seems like an exceptional case even among them. Salmi asked him if he followed her. He can only follow, now that he have realized what she were thinking. Even not knowing how strong the opponent is, and not even knowing how many there are, she rushed in headfirst. Even if the opponent was just a bit stronger, she would have been devoured without a chance. Then he asked Saiwa if he was that reckless half-goblin. Gayu moved forward towards to Saiwa. Among yokai, those rooted in animals are called beast demons. In most cases, they are bound by the form and instincts of animals that can be considered ancestors. As their status as yokai rises, not only their human disguise, but also their true form deviates from their origin. Such yokai or clans are referred to as phantom beast. And beyond that, there are those who transcend their own origins. In the past, they were called divine beasts. Beings who were worshipped by both humans and yokai. He introduced himself. His name was Gayu, representative of the Gayu Black Tortoise clan. He told to Saiwa that he must defeat him in order to become the yokai king. He extended his hand to shake hands with her. Saiwa noticed that he felt different than before. Salmi screamed at him and told him not to touch her hand. Saiwa turned to him and angrily said what the deal they are making again is. Too much has happened so far and why now? Gayu smiled and asked her if there was a standard if she said to be helpful all the time. He held her hand and said besides, it looks like fun. That the half-goblin is proud and confident enough to become a yokai king. He used his magic and surrounded them both with energy. Then they teleport to a forest. He was surprised and did not expect that using the teleportation technique was difficult when he first used it. And it happened very quickly. Is he smiling saying that not everyone can stand on their own 2 feet after that incident? On top of that, Saiwa didn't seem surprised. He told her that he might also have a plan to grab her like that. That's probably the most likely scenario. Before they begin, there's something he want to ask. Do you play games? Not metaphorically, he mean those computer games. Saiwa said back in middle school, he used to try various things. But as he entered high school, he didn't really play games much. He asked what genre he enjoyed back then. If he picked action RPG, he is not really into online games. It feels like spending is more important than skill their days. Gayu smiled. That's a valid point. Suddenly he attacked Saiwa. We will probably have a lot to talk about. Saiwa noticed it and he avoided the attack. He was surprised by what he saw. And immediately he was attacked by huge snows. He jumped to avoid it. Gyu smiled and told him that he acted very fast. While it's on the air, he thinks that avoiding and escaping is not. But he is attacked before he can avoid it. He is the one who keeps attacking, and he is the one who makes the judgment and decision to attack him. And for a newbie like him, it's amazing. He prepares his magic in his hand. But Saiwa noticed it. When it comes to fighting, his sense and talent are truly too high for the average. But this time, what shines brighter than anything else is his ability to learn it. The enemy that guides the strategy now faced, wary of the potential danger that the enemy may possess. His chosen answer was as expected. This is a new realization now. Gyu was shocked when he saw that he was preparing to attack. Saiwa used his hand to launch a long-range attack. That outlet is a tremendous energy. The broken shield from his hand. An ear cuff that emanates energy and strength from the wearer. And another lesson that even his attack hit the enemy. Don't let your guard down and end it definitively. The concept of like force, it's not entirely, but to some extent. He thinks he can grasp it now. A vivid electric charge running through the entire body. The starting point is the lower abdomen. Roughly estimating there is more than half left. Around 60%. When he just released a strong attack, it was about 10%. When he released several smaller attacks, it felt like each consumed around 3%. If the remaining energy drops to 0%, will he end up in the depletion state like last time? Considering that he can't just keep using it indefinitely. Gyu said, "This is mind-blowing." He didn't expect to retrieve the icicle so soon. Did he underestimate it too much? They broke through phase 1 right from the start. Saiwa told him that not only talking. He asked if he really trying to devour him. He was not exactly sure how to put it, but he don't sense anything piercing or threatening coming from Gyu. Forcing a life that doesn't exist is kind of awkward. He don't particularly hold personal grudges or appetites. Just like he said earlier, his words got on his nerves. That's all. He asked, do we know exactly what this yokai king is? He responds literally, the king of monsters, isn't it? Making laws or governing other yokai. Do you think about it a bit? Doesn't it sound a bit odd? The election process is simply about power struggle. Never mind that cycle happens only once every 666 years. Choosing a king who will rule for centuries with just one uncertain ritual. All the yokai follow this awkward tradition passed down from ancient times. It's a tradition that must be upheld. They are creatures inherently loyal to desire and instincts, simply because the strong made laws and rules doesn't mean they abide by them. Normally, slaughter and predication wouldn't cease. To prevent that, the yokai king is the ancient yokai's creation, a safety device. As the nature of yokai dictates, the inevitable catastrophe will occur. To prevent that, everyone agreed on at least one thing. Let's protect this. A being that commands the obedience of all yokai in this world, in exchange for harmonizing their survival. That is the yokai king right there. Fortunately, for over a millennium, the succession yokai king have managed the yokai of their eras without major disruptions. There might have differences in policies, but the fundamental principle of yokai survival and benefit remain the same. Except for one, the yokai king of this generation. Saiwa was shocked when he heard what he said. Imagine if he was a human leader suddenly enacted a law like this one day. No one in the world should ever ear meat, no matter what happens. What kind of chaos would ensue? Saiwa said to him that everyone would definitely protest vehemently. There is no guarantee that this law will be upheld, and it might not end with simple protests or riots either. Hua was smiling and said, isn't that so? But they have upheld it. For 666 years no less. Thinking like that might give them a rough idea. Just how important yokai king is to them. How much they have endured to uphold that tradition. He stared at him, but now even that patience seems to have run out. Do you know what he mean? If the next yokai king enforces the same law, not everyone will obediently follow like before. That's the story. He was quicker to understand as always. Even if it's the king command, they won't all listen this time. Even if it's yokai king, ultimately the strongest yokai. If the vast majority of yokai in the world resist, it can't be stopped. And if it comes to that, it won't just be the new yokai king that crumbles. And existence that has been upheld for many years as the yokai king. Its authority and symbol, quite literally, will fall to the ground. Now he understand what he was trying to say. Gyu said in front to Saiwa that he will become the yokai king and maintain the current state. Not many spirits out there would tolerate such arrogant word. The young spirits mock and move on, but the older ones might try to tear him apart. Saiwa remembers what Salmi said. She have a pretty good idea where this not heir is coming from. He was a good one, not exactly fitting the spirit stereotype. The problem is he was clueless about the ways of the world and recklessly give away his affection. Saiwu asked him if he was asking him to take back what he said. He said truthfully. At first, he thought he was just some inexperienced one he could squash beneath his foot. But now, he grown on him a bit. He catch on quickly, possess a fair bit of potential for growth, and all come under his command. If he help him to become the yokai king, he will let him rule the Korean peninsula. Quite a tempting offer, isn't it? Even if he rule, he won't be able to eliminate humans entirely, but he can probably spare a few that are close to him. Saiwu asked him, on his side, how strong he was. Is there a high chance of him becoming the yokai king as confidently as he's saying? Gyu was shocked. He said he can't claim to be the stronger in the Korean peninsula, but among the representatives outside, there's no yokai stronger than him. Saiwu moved forward to approach him and said if that means he can protect the people around him, then he will accept it and help him to become the yokai king. Gyu looks happy after hearing that. Then shake their hands and, just as expected, never disappoints. Saiwu said he made a wise choice, he won't feel guilt. Suddenly, his hand starts to release energy. Gyu was pressured. It's him who committed those deeds without a shred of trust. Pretending to shake hands, deceiving people, and attacking first, all on his side. Saiwu grabbed him, and it was a far cry from the wrestling. Saiwu has shown so far, utilizing only 60% of the energy within himself, leaving behind just a single sip, squeezing out every last bit of it. Not a reflexive sense, but a deep-rooted awareness, unleashing a technique for the first time, fueled by determination and consciousness. He smashed Gyu to the ground. There was no hesitation in that motion. Only determination and readiness exist. The reason why his body can't stop shaking. Is it because of the monster force? Stamina supplement and wound recovery. To Saiwu, who poured everything into the attack, leaving just the smaller amount of monster force behind, those two benefits were not available for him to use for the time being. In this current moment, where he's run out of resources, Saiwu has zero chance of continuing this fight, tamping down on the bloodthirst until the very last minute, then drawing all of the remaining monster force for one shot. It's a fighting sense that can only be given by the heavens. Gyu used his unique ability to hardening his body by freezing and manipulating water within a certain range centered on the user. If the difference in basic monster force between the two of them was just a bit less, then who knows, he might have even been helplessly eaten up by him. It's an art that can attack and defend without restriction. He asked Saiwu what your last word was. Nothing in particular. Even if he had a will, there aren't really words to leave behind for him. And since he went at him with the thought of killing him and consuming from the start, he was already prepared himself that the same fate could befall him as well. Above all, he still haven't finished yet. Gyu was surprised that Saiwa still wants to fight him despite of his situation. If he expected him to beg for his life or something, he think he was a bit too early that. Those eyes that still glare brightly without fading. Is that the will to aim for the opponent's weak spots and wait for an opportunity? It may even be the goblin's fighting spirit that slowly becomes awakened while he himself doesn't realize it. Gyu was smiling. He said to him he speak pretty well when all he can do is stand. He extend his palm to Saiwu and he tapped his shoulder and told to him that he was pass. Saiwu was confused. He didn't disappoint, even to his last remark. It was at the level where he just overflowed with spirit. Saiwu told him to hold on. What the hell does that? Gyu replied. That's just whether or not he is someone worth rooting for. There's no use in rooting for a rascal who doesn't even have any chance of becoming the yokai king. Sai was still confused of what he said. But he just said the reason why he couldn't be the yokai king didn't him? He said that's all true. Everyone's waiting with their eyes ablaze for the new yokai king to be selected. However, they don't really want the Knight of Monsters. As he haven't liked the noisiness of the monster world since he was really little. Ripping each other up and growling over nothing. And because he didn't understand why that was treated as obvious and essential at all. Compared to that, this is an incredibly idle and quiet place. And although it appears that there are humans who live chaotically, they can at the very least choose their lifestyle. Above all, they like that the humans are a species that know how to enjoy idle time. Manhwa, games, novels, movies. Because they are all useless things that he can't find anywhere in the monster world. But they like those useless things more than they enjoy consuming humans. If a world where humans can't make those things come to fruition, then they truly believe that'll be a tragedy. Saiwa thought he keeps on saying, they, since before. Does that mean there are other monsters that think the same as Solmi? He said he understand what he was saying. But for that, there's really no need to root for him though. He was smiling and said to him that he could just be the yokai king and it's a bother. And the Korean peninsula does appear to have the highest possibility of winning. But beyond being or not being the yokai king, there's an annoying problem, including himself. The leading candidates participating in the festival are all from families with rich histories. Basically, there are talents that they have inherited. Not there was a large presence of the optimized usage methods for the unique monster arts that have been handed down from their forefathers. Even if they're unique monster arts of similar force. There is no choice but for the side that has inherited the usage manual edited over thousands of years to be stronger. He know how humans say that they were born with a golden spoon. It's the same feelings. Saiwu asked him that a family is a golden spoon, like a chaebol household that's been passed down from generation. Is there something like a family pressure? He said what a refined expression. He can basically see it as being pressed down to the point of death. The second an offspring that has even just the littles of talent was born. The entire family hands onto them and makes noises, saying that they must become the next yokai king. There is no personal will there. The second he become the family's representative, the pledge to realize the interests and will of the family was forced upon him. If he don't, then they'd drag him down or kill him, just to put forth a new representative. Saiwa thought he's definitely not even a human like him. But having his entire family turn their backs at his enemy was quite a cruel thing. Gyu was happy and he pointed his fingers to him and told to him that Saiwu was different. A talent that he have inherited from an essential bloodline. Despite that, he aren't tied down by a family or clan, and he even have clear will and motive to become the yokai king. He cheer him that he can do it, he have to do it. Suddenly at the sky, Solmi transformed into Demon Crow. Saiwu was surprised, he understand what he say. But let he just think for a second. It all been just sudden since earlier. Solmi landed on Gyu's face. She was mad at him, then she threw him away. Solmi was furious and she attacked him with her unique technique. Saiwu tried stop Solmi. She said it's time. It won't even leave a scratch with just this much. Looking at it, it seems that he was already dipped somewhere far away because he was aware that he is going to get cursed at. He dipped. What the heck was that person even? Solmi told to Saiwa that guys he just met isn't that Appa's original self. To put it simply, it's like a split personality. Black tortoise. According to the legends, an existence born from a snake and a turtle pair off and become one. However, if he look back to their roots, it is said that their origins just come from an ordinary turtle. However, in a distant past, it is said that a certain genius realized the reason for the yin and yang. That person separated the yin and yang from their monster force, and separated only the extremely docile yin monster force, and as a result, broke beyond the limits of their birth and awakened as a divine beast. That was how the first black tortoise came to be. After that, the black tortoise's descendants were born, carrying the innate abilities to an extent. But it's said to become a complete black tortoise, they must go through excruciatingly painful training in order to acquire that. And the family side effect that forms from that is the snake. It's the personality that he saw. Saiwu was surprised. He said that he didn't seem that bad, though he didn't appear that way at the start. Solmi said he doesn't have malice. Tai problem is that he doesn't have thoughtfulness or anything either. He was impulsive and moves as he pleased. And he even has a strange mischievousness, so it hasn't been just once or twice that he was put people in a sticky situation. A personality naturally created when the monster force's yang energy is concentrated. She don't know if it's because of that, but his innate personality is extremely calm and cold. It's completely submissive to the main turtle personality, but it's supposed to be the side that provides strategy and analysis. As far as she knows. For some reason, Gyuappa's snake is said to be totally messed up from the start. Personality's one thing, but for some reason, it even has the ability to take over the body as it pleases, and it seems that it has frequently come out and caused trouble since long ago. And it's because of the reason that even when he was chosen as his family's representative, there were quite a few dissenters, calling him a halfling black tortoise or whatever. He was just so talented that she think they were pacified somehow. She asked Saiwu if he all packed of his belongings. They really have to go back quickly now. Don't worry so much. It isn't any of his fault. So even if they say something for being late, there won't be any negative impact his way. He said that isn't what worries him. The broken veranda. They've already been gone for a month, so he think his mother's going to be really worries when she sees that. Suddenly, Mangtai appeared, and he told to them that he won't have to worry about that. Things will be restored to the way they were tomorrow. As there are people who are in charge, prepared to handle things like these. He said to Solmi that he'd go on ahead first. He have something to say to Saiwa separately. Solmi was worries. She said that Saiwa didn't do anything wrong. This all happened because of her incorrect judgment. He said already know that. However, it's just simply that she don't need to be here, as there was something the three of them need to talk about. Both of them was shocked. Mangtai said that he was aware that such a sudden visit is rude. But there's one more hand that she have to shake. Saiwa was surprised when he saw Sealwa. So this is the sort of place that humans live in. It isn't too bad. It's a bit cramped. But it's neat in its own way. Saiwa was panicked and asked Mangtai if did he come out here for a bit because he gained permission to go out. Sealwa told him that she didn't get any sort of charity nor did she get a 12-hour visit every 6 months. She have no intention of coming out to the human world where she have to be conscious of other people's eyes. His was just dragged out here abruptly. She will explain if Mangtai just follow her first is what he said. So she followed him. But what about he begins talking now? Mangtai explained what happened. He will have to share what happened tonight. Right after dark. About 50 shutterwalks appeared, centering on Siochogu, Seoul. They were all under someone's control and attacked humans on the streets. After handling it, it appeared their method was incredibly crude, and they had no signs of covering what they did up. So he thought it was a trick to lure Solmi out and aim for Saiwa. Solmi asked if he was saying that wasn't their original purpose. He was not saying that it wasn't. But their goal probably wasn't just one destination. Tonight, at least 200 people have disappeared across Seoul and the Seoul metropolitan area. Saiwu and Sealwa was shocked. That number is only based on the reports filed at the human beings police stations, so the number of those who have actually disappeared will be over 500 at the least. Solmi can't believe it. If it's to that extent, then it isn't just one or two. That means there has to be a group of at least 5 people who move together then. If they set our hearts to it and close in on the list of suspects, then they can. Mangtai said Solmi was right. If the person who committed this is a monster from the Korean peninsula, they can find them without much trouble. However, from the traces left at a few of the senses he was visited tonight, all suggest an undesirable fact. Although it's impossible to count the regions other than the Korean peninsula, a number of monsters have come over here. Because they will be caught red-handed for what they did in the regions where they're from, they most likely started to hunt down humans in the Korean peninsula, where it's hard to track them. If they don't track and punish them as soon as possible, the hunting of humans will continue in the 6 months even before the festival begins. Sealwa was shocked upon hearing that situation. A monster that has the will and ability to protect the human world. In this current moment where they need every hand on deck possible, he want to give 2 an offer. The qualification exam that was set to be held in a month. If both of them accept, then the exam. He will proceed within a different manner immediately. To find and take out those who invaded the Korean peninsula as quickly as possible. That right there is the task he gave the two of them. Meanwhile at school, Yeshin was depressed no matter how much he think about it. He shouldn't have sent Saiwoo off like that. What the hell was he accepting like a Wes? If that rascal isn't able to come back, then that's entirely his responsibility. Let's take some proactive measures now. Saiwoo was happy and said to Yeshin, his phone was turned off. He knew he had be on his way to school. He asked if he have a minute to talk. Quite a lot has changed after what he told yesterday. Yeshin was surprised when he saw Saiwoo in front of him. The workers was shocked. They can't believe that Saiwoo lost weight. He was in panic and he said to Yeshin to little quietly, "It is a nuisance if he talk loudly in a public place." Then he apologized. Still, it is quite a good condition. In any case, that means he will be here rather than in the monster world. He won't have to make him or mom worry about him either. Yeshin said he have never heard what class monster he was exactly. He said would he even know so far to his class from the start. It is just yesterday that he found out he was a monster. He shocked when he heard Shin Taeyang Kigo-su. He asked what kind of monster name it that. It's his first time hearing it, but just hearing it brings chills down his spine. Yeshin said it isn't just one word. Each of the 5 words symbolizes a monster status. The lowest tier is Su, from the Hanja for beast, and its meaning isn't much different from the Hanja. The majority of monsters fall into his class. Although dangerous, they are pretty beings whose levels aren't that different from wild beasts. Their powers are also limited to just that. They just have the weapons and the numbers. Then it's possible for normal humans to go up against them, even if they haven't learned magic like he did. There were even quite a few precedents left in the old records. If it's with today's guns, it's possible to attack them with little to no problem. But it is beginning with the classes above that where it becomes a level where normal humans can't attack them. The class Go, monsters that have the strength of at least 100 humans. Even if you have a 100 people, that is just in terms of pure physical ability, so even if a 100 people of rushing at it, they will all just die. Saiwoo asked him if those are the 2 lowest classes, then to what extent are the top 3. He can't give him a definite answer because he have yet to experience one himself, but the risk that key class monster possess is about 10 times that of class Go. Under the condition that there aren't any restrictions, in just one night, they could turn a small city into a living hell. If they use Seoul as an example, it'd be about 1 class Gu. In the case of Shin and Ryung, just know that he shouldn't run into monsters like that. He probably won't run into them either. Because beings that powerful don't really bother breaking the law. Don't even think of meddling in that hunt at all. Either he sneak off step by step somehow. Or, if that doesn't work, then just call him. Or come to his house and hide. If they're really monsters that have invaded from outside Korea, then they'd be prepared to fight at least once against the monster here, or against shamans like himself. He don't know exactly how many of them there are, but it'd be okay even if they are key class. Saiwoo was worried and told to Yeshin, in his opinion, the monster that Tool the snake form, what class do he think? Yeshin said it was a little kid. Although not a Su class, it definitely doesn't touch the key class at all. At most, it can be seen as a mid-tier Go. Rather, he felt twice the strong energy coming from the corpse it was controlling. If it was able to handle even just half that power, then neither he nor he might even be here right now. There was a reason why it used it as bait to draw their attention. And if he didn't misread the situation, then he would have almost gotten consumed by that loudly bastard. He pointed his finger to Saiwoo. His current status as a monster was below him. In short, he is at most in the middle to lower tier of Go. Whether he was a goblin or a braggart, that's the reality. So don't try to meddle needlessly in things he can't even handle. He was saying, just be objective about his position. Even though his words weren't not harsh, he should nail this coffin down firmly so he doesn't have any other thoughts. Saiwoo was fired up. If he go against him again, he seriously, for sure, feel like he can beat him thought. Like he said. If he weren't there, then he really would have died without uttering a peep. But things have changed from then to now. He was gotten a sense of how monster force works to an extent, and should he say that he have also gotten a feeling of how to fight as well. Yeshin thought that his way of thinking is completely screwed up. Saiwoo asked Yeshin if he was going to go to school. Is it already time? He said no, he have no thoughts of going to school today. It doesn't seem like he will be getting his act together, so he will have to get it together for him somehow. He said to follow him. In the Olympic gymnastics arena, a sports facility that was completed in 1986. Built to hold the 1988 Seoul Olympics and currently known as a large-scale concert hall. But unknown to the public, there exists another use for it. It is in Special Underground Zone Public Benefit Training Center. Saiwa was amazed that he didn't know such a place existed in the basement. He saw a lot of places like this on the way here. He asked if they are all his family. He said no way, it's a facility created by the government. It's not like there aren't any shamans or masters besides his family. Saiwa asked him if they know about Monster and the festival. He said far off, from ancient times. The state powers have always kept strong shamans by their side. Perhaps it was strong shamans who were first to create the concept of a state to begin with. Because the power to fight monsters itself would have been even more powerful than anything else by the standards of the distant past. 666 years ago, since the early days of the Joseon dynasty, there hasn't been a threat of monster. Even the Joseon royal family established the Constellation Hall, an institution to train strong shamans. And it's his family that has continues that line of duty. Whether it's monsters or festivals or other surreal forms. There is some recognition at a national level. Even so, it's a secret that only a few at the top even know. And it doesn't really seem like even they take the situation that seriously though. He asked Saiwoo if he was ready, then felt free to come at him. He told him already, there isn't anything like time limit or rules. If he can overpower him using whatever moves he can, then he won't worry about whatever he do with the other monsters. Saiwoo said he aren't going to use a sword or a dagger-like weapon he did yesterday. He said of course. It's because he was not using it that this fight is established. Although there is a difference between each individual's preferences, generally, the amount of skills that strong shamans can exhibit without their weapon is less than half. It's to a level where he shouldn't separate himself from his weapon, no matter what happens. But if it's him, he can go up against a Go-class monster without any difficulty, with just his body. In other words, if he can overpower him, then that's proof that he was monster that beyond that class. He walked towards to Saiwoo. He asked what he was doing. He told him to come at him. While Saiwoo was stunned and his hand was shaking. Suddenly he attacked Yeshin and tried to grab him, but Yeshin deflected his hand and punched him into that face that he kicked his body. Yeshin not asking if he was okay means there's no meaning behind that question, because he noticed the second he struck. He has already seen Saiwoo's recovery rate once before. Saiwoo told to Yeshin that he was incredible. And because he had the purpose of he must save his friend so he get his act together. He never put much into his golden touch, and because that actual damage was near zero. Saiwoo managed to stand up and told to him he was like a protagonist of a manhwa. Yeshin was wonder if he is on the losing end instead. It feels like he have struck his fist against a brick wall. If he had wrapped his hands in less energy, the bones would have all been smashed. Saiwoo, who has realized that his friend won't be hurt even if he doesn't control his strength, and his friend, Yeshin, who has realized he's a much more dangerous monster than he thought. In an atmosphere and mindset that have completely changed. Saiwoo was the first to move. He's a lot faster than before. But his attack manner hasn't changed. Saiwoo managed to grab his hand while Yeshin kneed him in the face. He flipped in the air. Periodic restriction as the energy of all creation has reached him now. He looked him into his eyes. While Yeshin was ready to attack him. Lateral descent, he earnestly asked that he come down and become one. Then he let it go his hand to avoid the attack from Yeshin. He was surprised that the thing he was holding isn't what he think it is. He was probably right. Saiwoo was surprised when he realized that this is the first time he have drawn the Goblin Club Lightning. It out with his will though. Let's briefly touch upon a fact that may not be evident. At this point in time, Saiwoo's overall condition is approaching poor. If they were to consider only his physical stamina, it would seem relatively good. However, the issue lies in his spiritual energy. In the battle of last night, Saiwoo consumed approximately 93% of his total spiritual energy capacity. Originally, this amount would take more than a day of rest to fully recharge. Moreover, in the sparse environment of the mortal realm, recovery may be even slower. However, ironically, the current state, nearing exhaustion of spiritual energy, has been quite helpful in replication the moment when Saiwa drew his goblin club. While he lacked control over his body, his consciousness and senses were sharp, allowing him to vividly recall that moment. Yashin said it's a bit disappointing. He have read about goblin clubs in old documents. Whether those documents exaggerated the weapon or there's an issue on his end, he don't know. He said, but from what he can see and what he can feel, it doesn't seem all that impressive. He don't think the documents are incorrect. Yashin was surprised and Saiwa starts to attack. He jumps towards to him. He said in his opinion as well, he certainly don't seem any more remarkable than last time. He swing his goblin clubs. Yashin managed to block with his hands. He's bulkier than he had imagined. But if he was in an enhanced state, it's not something he can't defend against. A strike after a great leap. The cost in terms of stamina and energy will be far from trivial. There's no need for him to close the distance intentionally. He can just maintain the defense and wait for his exhaustion. Saiwa pointed his goblin's club in the ceiling. He said this could actually work. Yashin was confused and he asked what he is doing right now. He said it seems like it would be difficult to win up close. He have a feeling he can't keep blocking that giant fist-like thing indefinitely. If there's one thing that Saiwa knows for sure, it's that he can't replicate the same power as last time. The size and strength of the club was nothing, not even half of what it used to be. But there's one thing, the ability to freely change its form, that he could manipulate to some extent, and he had enough cunning to make use of it. He was smiling while he launching his attacks. Yashin tried to stop it, but the force was too strong for him. Meanwhile, Saiwa continues his attacks and he managed avoided it. He think that there's no noticeable difference in the aura compared to earlier. It's just that the change in form and how he swing it. The power has almost multiplies exponentially. He asked Saiwa if he really going to play dirty. He said his not exactly squeaky clean either, but he was the one who suggested they fight first. This is a test to see if he can handle fighting against yokai or not. In a fight like this, it's better to be more cunning. Fighting honestly would be meaningless in a life or death battle. His argument makes so much sense that he can't argue with it. If he think about it. Even though the situation and perspective are a bit unusual, in the end, they are just two teenagers who are very close friends. Saiwa was happy while launching another attacks. Sometimes admitting that can be a way to go. It's not necessarily wrong. It's just that his abilities were lacking, so what could he do? Yashin felt the pressure and his body was shaking. Is that how it's going to be? They smiled each other for excitement. Yashin said he have reached his limit with his nonsense. Saiwa strikes again and he avoided it. He continues his attacks while Yashin thinks he was the one who should be increasing his speed. But it's getting greater and harder to avoid his attacks. He adapting to his martial arts and speed, and it's happening quite rapidly. Saiwa changed the directions of his attacks and he was surprised and it landed to him, but he blocked it. Saiwa was worried and asked him if he was okay. He was changing his tactics to minimize the power of his attacks, even though they're probably much weaker than before. But perhaps back then, he was already injured. Yashin used his technique. Righteous comfort, prime longevity. The true Lord who permits the radiant sun and banners. Urgency as the law commands and as equals demand. Yashin managed to hold the goblin's club. He unleashed his arrows crafted to resemble willow leaves piercing like thorns. Saiwa was surprised. And his goblin's club was cutter. Suddenly Yashin attacks him, but Saiwa notices it and he swing his goblin's club, but he managed to avoid it. Yashin shines his eyes, the regal monarch of the moonbeam that alters the hue of scarlet heaven. Currently for Yashin, there is no ritual implement equipped that aids the ability of specific martial art. As a result, the disadvantages arising from this include the inability to utilize the majority of acquired techniques, and even if the techniques are usable, it's very difficult to control its power. Saiwa stepped back while he saw Yashin drawing his spiritual swords. Urgency as the law commands and as equals demand. By adding his own every, it creates weapon using divine power. Art of the homeland, heavenly sword. They strikes each other. Even if it's hastily made, The power to defeat yokai is truly overwhelming. Saiwa was worried that his goblin's club broke, while Yushin pointed his divine swords to him. A moment right before the end. The reason Yushin hesitated for a moment is that the opponent in front of him is his friend. But the reason he made up his mind is also because the opponent in front of him is his friend. Saiwa launching his fist, and suddenly he stopped, noticed that his divine sword was vanishing. The Saiwa landed his fist into Yushin's face. Saiwa was surprised and asked him why this he suddenly spare him at the end. Even if he had finished him off, he could have recovered quickly. Yushin said it wasn't like that. He used the full power of his exorcism arts. If the opponent's is a yokai, they wouldn't have held up even at chi grade, no matter how strong they were. Just like his goblin's club was shattered. It's just that the technique itself recognizes beings other than he is not yokai. Yushin was crying about what happened. In the morning, Yushin said it's incredibly annoying for him to be all anxious right any to him. Saiwa said his nose, he was wondering if it hurts a lot. If it ends up scarring then. That won't happen. He poked his nose. It isn't as great as a monster's, but it's a body that he have worked hard to cultivate too. Something like fractured bones and torn skin will get better in a day. Beside that he decreased his force right before he hit him. The second he realized his attack didn't work, he most likely took as much power as he could. Because if he didn't, at the very least, all the bones in his nose would have been shattered. He said he was a quite decent. If he was going to have around catching monsters or whatever, do as he please. Thanks for understand. He still don't understand though. He was only like this because he made a promise. He said to take this. These look like some gourds. They are like some gourds, they are gourds. A consumable. Just think of them as a bond-like gourd that can be used once. To use it, hold of in his hand and recite, urgently like a mandate. Or, if he was really in a rush, then just smash it on the ground. With his force, he think just holding it in his hands and giving it a little power will work too. Then the magic inside the gourd will activate. Just use it once whenever he was in danger. And be careful not to shatter them at the same time even if you do use several of them. Saiwa was grateful, but is it really alright except 3 of these? His energy is stored in them, aren't they? And an incredible amount at that. He don't think they're things he can make easily though. Yushin said how he knew. Have he seen something like this before? He said it's not like that. But even just holding them in hands, he can feel it. The energy that he felt when fighting him earlier. A lot of that same energy, and a lot at that, is stored inside these gourds. Saiwa's speculation was correct. 3-colored stream. The accumulation-type Dharma tool mainly used by Yushin's family. Inside the gourd that's been treated with a special glaze. One's energy is poured in and stored whenever they have the time. So, whenever and whatever the situation may be, one can use their power to use magic that would have been difficult to use otherwise, and even if it isn't them, anyone who possesses the gourd can consume the Dharma tools to use magic. Yushin was surprised and thinks the purpose of the glaze applied to the gourd's surface is to seal in one's energy. But to penetrate through that and even figure out the amount of energy inside. He asked Saiwa to show his hand for a second. Although it said he can tell one's fate and disposition by just looking at the length of their palm and its placement, it's completely groundless for the most part. However, if there's one thing that can be ascertained. Yushin was shocked of what he saw into Saiwa's palm. This isn't just being a bit compatible, this is just talent itself. It's the skill of a spiritual person, masters or gurus who are like shamans. He stares at him, although he's not 100% sure of his palm. Being able to sense the 3-colored stream's energy is one thing, but if he also think about how he looked while fighting, he was almost certain. If he wasn't a monster, then he would have told Father immediate. It would have been possible with his own discretion, without needing anyone else's permission. Saiwa was totally confused right now. Yushin think that his talent is to the extent that even if he was accepted as an external disciple, no one would have had a problem with it. Even now, is it not too late? Although they can't hide that he was a monster, he's undoubtedly half human and his own will. There's no way those stubborn fools would permit it. Beyond simply failing to get permission. There's a high possibility that they may take it the wrong way. A goblin that has the talent of a shaman. Truthfully, if it wasn't Saiwu, then even he wouldn't have looked at them in a favorable light. Just a little, if only he had found out just 3 days earlier. He was happy and said to him that he was just thinking that his life's pretty tangled up too. Saiwu said to him that he can really tell something like that from his palm. Yashin replied maybe or maybe not. He asked when he was thinking of attending school again. He should probably first start with getting fitted into a new uniform. As it stacks, he basically don't have anything to wear besides the tracksuit. Did he know that it even feels like his feet have gone down half a size too? Yashin said that's quite a bit fascinating. But it'll be worth seeing everyone's reaction when he go to school. If he just stays still and don't say his name, then he wonder how many will recognize him. Saiwu said his head already feels like it's going to explode just thinking about it. Yashin said there's no way. It's already this late. No wonder why he felt hungry. Then let's eat at the place right up here. He will pay. Yoons asked why though, can't they just go to his pails and eat there? Saiwu was ahoy and asked if he know that kimchi fried rice that he made last time. It was nice how he ate the belly in too. That will be a bit hard though. There's a guest there currently. Moreover, right about now, they will most likely be in a deep sleep too. Yashin was shocked and has asked a guest. He said there's also a place that he got to go to after they eat lunch too. Yashin said there's no need to force himself to try to say something that's hard to bring up while being mindful of him. He told him that whatever he do with the monsters, he won't pay attention to it. It looked like he have some matters to attest to, so he will just leave for today then. He said treat him next time. And don't be down like someone who has committed a crime or something. Whoever he go out to meet, straighten his shoulders and go confidently. Because he was more strong enough to do that. After that Saiwu was running and looking for something. It's a pretty old-looking neighborhood. It feels like the homes are basically all empty. Have he really come to the right place? He was in front of the door and read the banner, Rising Dark Moon Quarters. He asked what does that mean? Suddenly a man opened the door. Saiwu thinks this person is a monster. And an incredibly strong one at that. The man ignored him, and there is a woman that said if he was the guest that they have never met before. A pleasure, her name is Hongrian, the head of the Rising Dark Moon Quarters here. Saiwu said hello and he told his name. He was introduced to this place by the cleanup post yesterday. As she can see, they gave him the address saying he should go here first. Hongrian said it's him. She have already heard about him from Elder Yumming. Now please come in. Saiwu thinks the inside just simply doesn't feel dark, but rather it feels like a black fog that's shogun the place. When he entered inside, he was shocked of what he saw. A huge and quiet place. Hongrian said to please drink comfortably. He was shy and said thank her for the drink. He asked if this isn't Seoul. The unobstructed views one thing and the wind and air and something. It all feels incredible refreshing. Hongrian said that's correct. The Rising Dark Moon Quarters is a space separated from and a part of human world because it has been out of reach from the touch of civilization and progress for hundreds of years. It maintains the fresh air and energy those days. If he asks for what purpose this space exists, then they are a store that provides various conveniences so that residents of Monster World can adjust to life in the human world. Saiwu remembers what Mengtai said to him earlier. If he pay a visit when the day is bright, then it will be help. But even if they call themselves a store for monsters, suddenly he pop up his storage and said he revived this sort of thing. He was told this is currency from the monster world, but he was able to use this here. Hongrian was happy as she saw those monster coins. She said of course, they help with everything, both purchases and exchanges. There are those who acquire jobs in the human world, but they exchange monster currency for human money to use for the most part. With monster coins, given the current exchange value of this nation, on Niang is equivalent to about 3 million won. Saiwu was shocked. Hongrian said that's the value with commission included. Saiwu, age of 17. The maximum cash balance of his entire life thus far, 720,000 won. She asked would he like to take a look and see what he can purchase. She asked the man to show their guest about the demon spirit pill. He opened the box. What he see right now is the demon spirit pills that the guests at their store most frequently look for. It's a pill that accelerates the recovery of one's monster force. Saiwoo was surprised. As he was aware, monster force barely exists in the natural environment of the human world. And even if there is a monster world, recovering monster force itself is something that consumes quite a bit of time. Because of it, a single pill is made up of all sorts of medicinal ingredients from the monster world. And it is made with the secret technique that has been passed down in their rising dark moon quarters. So that even in an environment where monster force is incredibly weak and ample amount of monster force can be absorbed after consumption. Saiwoo is panic and he will but it. He really need that. He asked the colors of containers they are stored in are different. Is there a difference in efficacy? The color of the container refers to watch class if the demon spirit pill. The price is set at a standard of 1 monster coin niang. The silver demon spirit pill is 10 niang, the gold demon spirit pill is 3 niang, and the black demon spirit pill is 1 niang. The higher the class, there's also a difference in recovery rate. But if you want the effects or recovery right this moment today, then he recommend the black one. Saiwoo was thinking what he needs. He said for now, 1 black pill. He asked if he can eat one right this moment. She said of course. If it's fast, then he will be able to see the effects sometime tonight. That's the same, no matter which one he fought. There is discussion from monsters regarding monster force, so the 2 most important things are the size and absorption rate of one's Niden. The size of the Niden, or the case of the total quantity of monster force, the older a monster gets, they grow as they consume other monsters. However, in the case of the absorption rate, that's from the surrounding environment or the food they consume to recover their monster force. It's incredibly difficult to increase that rate through acquisition, due the majority of monsters' rate largely comes from their own talent or their bloodline's influence. Hongrian thinks if they are a high-ranking class, then it takes about 3 to 4 hours to completely digest a black-colored demon spirit pill. But with just a half-monster body, not even half will be digested after a few days pass and will just be excreted from the body as is. Still, it isn't like she lied. If he absorbs even just a part of it, his insignificant Niden would probably be recovered by tonight. In accordance with Hongrian's assessment, the black-colored demon spirit pill is an excessive wonder drug to the current Saiwoo. With on pill, it can restore Saiwoo's Sidon 3 or 4 times over. Suddenly he was exploded. However, that just means it confined to the size of his Niden. Hongrian can't believe he just swallowed the demon spirit pill, and it's just been a few seconds. But in that short time, this is the extent of the monster force that he has absorbed. The 3rd day since Saiwoo began his life as a monster. For a low-level pill have they eaten something that is really that great. Saiwoo for the first time in his life, he experienced 100%. Beyond 100% of his monster force.